Today is Monday, which means it's another edition of Misleading Graph Monday. And today we're looking at this graph. So just looking at the graph quickly, it's a bar graph that's describing the percentage of Americans that identify as Christians from 2009 to 2019. And as we can see in the graph, there was a decrease between these two dates. However, if we look at the y-axis here, it doesn't start out with 0, and that's a big problem. I'm sure the goal of this segment was to look at the declining rate of people who identify as religious in the United States. However, by not using 0 as the bottom of the y-axis, this creates a huge flaw. By starting at a point further up in the data, what happens is you make the differences between the data points look more drastic. You can see in the two graphs here where the y-axis doesn't start with 0, it makes the increase look very drastic. However, on the right-hand side here where the y-axis starts at 0, you can see that increase isn't very drastic, it's very minimal. This graph is misleading because it looks like the percentage of Americans that identify as Christians has decreased by more than half, when in all reality, it's just decreased over these 10 years by 12%. Now that is something to talk about, however, it's not what the original graph looks like. The decrease we see in this graph looks very different than the decrease in this graph, and that's why it's misleading.